Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Security Table. This is an abridged episode because we're going to talk really fast about something and have kind of a shorter episode here. Joined by Izar and Matt and myself, Chris Romeo. We're always around the Security Table and we're going to jump right in. So I am looking at this NSA and CISA red and blue team share top 10 cybersecurity misconfigurations. Let's pick up with number one and get into it. So default configurations of software and applications. Are we in favor of these or are we against?
Well, if you don't configure it right, then it's a misconfiguration. Then I guess it's pretty much on the top 10.
Well, but I mean, this is if we talk about a default configuration, this is making an assumption that the default is bad, and but you could say the same thing about everything on this list. If this is your default,
well, no. Wait. They go to default credentials, meaning basically the misconfiguration here is that you are not changing the default passwords, which we know that absolutely nobody ever does. Everybody immediately goes and puts a safe, good password instead of the default.
I mean, that's why with default credentials, you don't give them the choice. There is no default credential. You don't have one. You have them set a password when they're configuring the device or whatever. I wasn't going to name any names. It was supposed to be without names.
I didn't. I just had a thing here.
Yeah. Well, a little sneeze that sounded like a
on this list.
name.
There is no default. I mean, unless you're talking about credential hygiene, there is no default credentials explicitly on this list.
Yeah.
But number one is a summary line. It doesn't really need to be its own number because they have 11 on this list. Right? If your default configuration is insecure, of course it's going to be number one. Yeah. Right. But all of these other things are also
they're kind of missing. They're mixing default credentials here with poor credential hygiene at number 9. So it doesn't make sense. Why are these not combined? Why would you have two separate things here?
Well, so poor credential hygiene could be two things. It could be misconfiguration of your password policies, or it could be lack of your runtime behaviors around looking at compromised credentials. Okay. So in one case, it's a configuration. In the other case, it's not a configuration. So it's a kind of a misleading item on this list.
Okay, let's keep going.
One is having the fact that you shouldn't be able to keep the default past setup. And the second one is you really should choose a good password and you should store it right. But the thing that, just before we go there, the thing that I have a problem with here is that we start with default configurations, which is a big thing, and then we funnel into credentials and permissions, which is a a much smaller subset than default configurations.
Yeah. They talk about service level permissions as well. But look at 2. I think we're going to love 2. It's basically the E in stride.
I do, but I don't think it's a misconfiguration. I think it's usually more of a design thing.
Ooh, good point. Let's unpack that a little bit. So why is this a design problem and not a misconfiguration?
Because putting it, I think that lumping it together as a misconfiguration under this title basically means you are using accounts that have way too much privileges than they should, right? Which is not exactly a problem of separation. It's a problem of the way that you design your system, and you are giving one account the ability of being everything, rather than saying we have this set of accounts that's admin accounts, and we have this set of accounts that's user accounts.
I think we have a context problem. We're looking at this through the lens of AppSec and software and ProdSec people. I just took a closer look. This says top 10 cybersecurity misconfigurations. So they're not specifically talking about designing a web app. They're talking about excessive account privileges and elevated service account permissions that would be part of an operating Windows network in an enterprise.
Yeah, so let's talk about that then.
Aren't those applications?
Well, so think about number one in that context then. Leaving the default configuration is the problem, right? Mm-hmm. By not changing the configuration to a secure state, if it requires elevating security, and this is a lightning round here, but just think about the CISA Secure by Design, Secure by Default guidelines that came out recently in updated form. Secure by Default means comes secured then you have to weaken security. We talk about loosening guides. But most of the time, products and applications and software are shipped in a default configuration that is insecure, and leaving it in that insecure configuration state puts it at number one on this list.
Yeah.
Number two is, likewise, those things often ship with an administrative account. That administrative account may be the only account that's installed by default, and people will use it for operations when they should.
Exactly.
They should create an additional account, non-privileged, to be used for general purpose or something that's view only for metrics and reporting purposes or whatever. And you should be separation of the application should enforce separation of duties, and users of those applications should reinforce that.
All right, so let's look at 3. I don't get this one. Insufficient
3 and 4
internal
actually.
network
Wait, you don't get this
monitoring.
at all? How do you?
I mean,
you can't measure what you don't know, right? You can't defend what you don't have.
Yeah, but isn't everything
into.
encrypted in the world we live in now? How can you monitor anything on a network? That's not
Well,
just
no,
a bunch of
no.
TLS going
DPAC
back and
inspection.
No. You
TLS
can,
offloading. And
you can monitor for streams that are not predicted in your threat model. So I know that these two things are expected to talk, but if I see A talking to Z, all of a sudden, oh, wait, that's not supposed to happen.
Right.
Okay.
But also with TLS offloading and DPAC inspection, I mean, we're supposed to be in a world of zero trust, right? Where systems are going to be an island unto themselves. But traditionally, there's a network boundary where you may terminate TLS at the network boundary, and then everything within it can be DPAC inspected and monitored for the traffic. And if you don't do that, then you're potentially leaving yourself at risk.
I mean, can you do that at the speed of an enterprise network, though? Can you?
Yes,
we're talking 10
if you use
gig
mirror traffic.
in a 10 gig connection. You can decrypt all of that TLS traffic
With hardware-
and
with
still
hardware
analyze it
decryption,
in
yeah.
real time.
Yeah, with hardware decryption, absolutely.
You can.
Okay, wow.
But
The world of computing has gone further.
The thing that's sort of bothering me here is that we jumped from configuration of actual stuff and how you use stuff to all of a sudden on 3 and 4 we are looking at networks.
And this is design too. This is
And many
of
times
networks,
it's not
yeah.
the same people who do both things. So
Heck
who's
yeah.
the public for this thing here?
I guess it's misleading. It's misleading because it's not a configuration. It's
It
a
is.
design. It's a layout.
It is a configuration
How?
because you could. I mean, whatever you designed, when you go to implement it, you are configuring your network monitoring tools in an insufficient way.
You configure it because it has to be configured to be of use, but it's not a configuration problem of the environment or the system or the whatever.
We're nitpicking on words at this point.
Yeah, let's keep. But it is. But to your earlier point about design, there is a design element to if you properly design your network monitoring, you don't have insufficient network monitoring. And so,
By the way, for 4 with software-defined networking, this is absolutely a configuration issue.
and 4, just for the record, is lack of network segmentation.
Right. So having
It could be
air-gapped
architecture.
environments, it is an architecture, and it may
So
also
architecture
be.
now is configuration.
Oh, we could have an episode alone on that one.
I dare you to go to an architect and say what you do is configuration. I dare you.
Yeah, you're change management now, friend. That's what you do. It's just a bunch of change management.
Isn't that DevOps? Isn't that what DevOps and DevSecOps is all about?
What?
And he
Change
just said the quiet part loud.
Well, there's another $1 in the swear jar from Matt Coles.
Well, at least I didn't say pane of glass.
Or shift left, or any of my
Single.
other, or dash,
Single
or
bit
any
of
of the
glass.
other words that cause pain.
All right. Support patch management, number 5.
Okay.
Not a configuration per se, unless it's automatic updates we're talking about.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh! Speaking of the word jar, so is this one talking S-bombs? Is it S-bomb time already?
Please no. Please stop.
Please stop.
Wait, do we have insufficient dust anywhere?
Oh man, this is Okay, so poor patch
hate mail.
management, lack of regular patching, use of unsupported operating systems. To your point, this isn't a configuration unless it's an automated thing. This is just a point. This isn't the top 10 misconfigurations. It's the top 10 problems that exist. And,
true.
and it's so the misconfiguration would be a lack of automated patch management, because that's something you could change. You can turn it on or turn it off. All right, good. Right. 6, bypass of system access controls. Wait a minute.
I'm not entirely sure this is a configuration issue. This is an active attack kind of thing, right?
I would say that having system access controls is the configuration or misconfiguration.
I mean, but look at the first sentence there. That's a threat. The first sentence is a threat. A malicious actor can bypass system access controls by compromising alternate authentication methods in an environment.
Well, okay, so there's the configuration problem, right? And it goes back to number 1. If the system's default configuration exposes insecure protocols and you leave them open, you're at risk to this threat, right? Number 2, the second sentence here, if a malicious actor could collect hashes, well, how do they collect hashes? You've left LAN in your system, right? Or NTLM or whatever.
And that you're saying that's the configuration problem.
That's the configuration problem, right? So you've misconfiguration. You've left insecure protocols in place.
And the whole item is just listing ways of bypassing authentication.
Yeah, but they should have taken the statements and turned them around in terms of as a system designer and a system deployer, don't leave insecure configurations because they'll allow malicious actors to do X, Y, Z. That's how it probably should have been stated. That's, I think, what they intended to say. But what they did was they took the attack first and not the cause.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then 7, weak or misconfigured MFA methods.
Oh,
but listen where they start here. Misconfigured smart cards or tokens, generally government or DoD networks. So not really that applicable to the average enterprise. Like, we don't use smart cards anywhere. At least I don't know anyone uses smart cards.
Some companies, well, yeah, okay, maybe primarily in government or DoD, but you have high security environments that do use smart cards. It's not unheard of. And people use YubiKeys and other FIDO tokens all the time.
I mean, that's not a smart card, though, right? A YubiKey's.
It's a token.
I mean, they're talking about
a token.
They're talking about cat cards here in this context.
CAC and PIV.
Well, they are talking about tokens as well. So you could think about FIDO and all that.
So if you have a Google Titan or if you have a YubiKey, right? Those are access tokens. Those are tokens that are in scope here. Yeah. What's interesting though is they don't start with not having MFA in the first place. They start with the assumption that you have MFA and it's insecurely configured, not you don't have MFA.
Well, not having MFA, to our earlier discussion, would not be a misconfiguration.
Exactly, yeah.
It would be a design problem. So they kind of followed the right pattern.
Unless it was a configuration option that you could enable MFA that you didn't.
I see.
They are assuming that you have it, but it's misconfigured.
That's right.
All right, now 8, we go back to network.
Wait. Before we go there, then they jump to lack of phishing resistant MFA.
Which is a configuration problem again.
Is configuration or is design of the MFA? Perhaps the MFA solution is not good enough.
That's true if you have one to choose from. But if you have multiples to choose from, and you don't enable again the strongest one available.
Oh no, sorry. Upon reading, they seem to be addressing MFA over SMS. Because they say that exploitation of signaling system 7 protocol vulnerabilities and SIM swap techniques is the problem.
Right.
So we agree with that. I mean, we agree with.
If you have an option of using one that reduces,
it's not a misconfiguration
unless it's an option.
Which a lot of times it is an option. A lot of times it is an option these days.
Yeah.
Between push and text-based, SMS-based.
Right.
If you have a choice between A or B, is that a misconfiguration if you choose the weaker of them? Or is it a bad design choice?
Or bad default. It's not or secure by default. It's a
bad default.
Secure by default.
It's a bad default, which means it's a configuration choice, and it's a bad design in that you're giving a poor choice.
Yeah.
Okay, you convinced me.
All right, 8, insufficient ACLs on network shares and services. So now we're back to the network again.
Yeah, this is a configuration problem. Most definitely, you've set the wrong ACLs.
So we're saying this is a misconfig, and we're moving on.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. 9 says poor credential hygiene.
That's basically bad configuration of human persons because.
Well, this is if you're using passwords and you're not using MFA, or if you're using MFA with passwords and you have crackable passwords, that means you've set a weak password policy, right? You haven't used 20 characters with symbols, alphanumeric and spaces.
Wait. We know that those policies are not all that they are hipped up to be. Right?
If you enforce a strong password policy, you have...
What is the new... It's NIST 800-63, right? 800-63 redefines password policies as what they should be in a proper...
Long, easy to remember, but hard to guess phrases that don't
with
change
no changeable unless there's been a breach.
Right.
You don't have to change them. So
and here they say that it's if it's shorter than 15 characters, then it's bad.
Right. And clear text password disclosure. We talked about this earlier with use of insecure protocols that expose credentials on the wire. Right. But what's I guess that's the choosing of a bad credential that can be easily guessed, or reusing credentials and exposing it through insecure configurations. That's ultimately what it's getting to.
But again, is this a configuration thing? I mean, the only configuration that I can think of in here is the size of the password or the choice of hashing method that you have.
There's so much more they could have done. Like even just referencing 800-63 is the current standard of what I think of as the best practice. I don't think, I mean, if somebody is in this day and age, if they're allowing short passwords and non-complex passwords, then shame on them.
Well, and then they talk about passwords still held in clear text. So this is not a configuration issue, right? This is not strictly.
That's a design problem.
I don't know any system that says, would you like to store your passwords in clear text? Oh, okay. I'm going to configure it this way. Yay. Let's hope for the good things.
All right. We got to pick up 10 here. Unrestricted code execution. So there's a condition at the top, though. If unverified programs are allowed to execute on hosts, a threat actor, it sounds like a threat, can run arbitrary malicious payloads within a network.
Yeah. In my opinion, I don't know how you can say that this is a configuration issue. Unless you're running EDR.
Well,
right.
Can you somehow force, like on Windows, is there a configuration setting to only run things that are trusted binaries?
You need stuff on top of it.
No, but you can have Windows fail to run without prompting for UAC. You could, right, or whatever it's called now.
Yeah, they had because it was their safe list. Didn't they build a safe list feature years ago for
if it's not digitally signed? If it's not digitally
signed and the certificate is good,
so you could do group policy to prevent this.
But unless it is and I could be wrong here because I'm not a Windows person, but unless it's a very limited account, you can just click on run it anyway.
Oh yeah, if you're running as admin, so you're running with elevated privileges, that goes back to the running with elevated privileges discussion.
Enterprise application environment, not everybody has admin, right? And so, I think that's where they're going. Now, I don't know why you would turn off those protections if you, in a Windows environment. Why would you turn off all of these things about safe listing applications based on signatures of binaries and things like that?
Because Joe from accounting absolutely needs to be able to run that Flash thing that he has from 95. So they have to lower the barriers and give him more privileges.
Yeah, I guess. Not in my world. Not in my network. I won't allow it. So, all right. Well, that was a fun little quick pass through. The NSA, CISA, red and blue teams share top 10 cybersecurity misconfigurations. I think we kind of had some fun going through there and pointing out some things. Izar's got the last thought.
It has to be said. It has to be said that we value the effort. We like that it came out. And we just think that it could be a bit more, I don't know, focused, defined.
Could be tuned up a little bit to truly make it so that it's clear how everything is a misconfiguration. And so there's not as much.
And the mitigations have good stuff. There's a lot to learn in there as well. And they have good references.
Yeah.
So I think that all in all, 3 out of 5 for the effort.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, they're moving the industry forward. It may not be perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect, and that's okay because there is no perfect security. There is only reasonable security, and some of this is reasonable. And we'll leave it with that.
Yeah.
Thanks, folks.